Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the UnLearnT podcast. I'm your host, Ruth Abigail, a.k.a. R.A.
What's up, friends? It's your girl, Jaquita.
And this is the podcast that is helping you gain the courage to change your mind so that you can experience more freedom.
All right now.
All right. Hello.
Listen, we are out here rocking and rolling.
Yeah, we are.
In these podcast streets,
Absolutely.
okay? Me and Ruth have had a great week, really
Yes.
just enjoying all of the things, enjoying the studio time.
Enjoying, yes, this has been great.
Listen, we out here, this is just has been so much fun to be able to give a different experience,
Exactly.
you know?
Yeah.
And to look deep into my best friend's eyes and realize we are one, we are connected, we are unified.
We are unified.
Right, yeah.
We're in this together.
We are. Wait, before I even forget, because she said together, and I thought about you, and I thought about how you need to join this community, okay?
Yes.
Become a part of the movement, okay?
Absolutely.
Like this podcast, share it, subscribe, become part of this family, okay?
Yeah.
Because we are unlearning together.
Together.
Okay, so share, and subscribe.
Yes.
Want to remind you all, hit the notification bell, right, so that you can receive notifications of when we dropping that next episode, okay?
Yeah.
So you can be a part of this thing.
So, Quita, what are we talking about today?
Listen, all right, if you joined us for the last segment, okay, we discussed about what to do to prepare for the storm. If you have not watched that episode yet,
you wanna
make
do
sure
that.
you go hit that,
You wanna go
right?
do
Because
that.
we gave you an emergency toolkit, okay,
Yes.
with all of the things that you need to be in place before the storm, okay?
Yes.
So today, we're going to move from the before to the during.
To the during.
Okay, we need to talk about what do I do if I am now in the place where I am in a crisis moment where something has shifted, something has pivoted, something has knocked me. You know what I heard somebody say one time, what the old folks say?
Lord.
You know, my cheese is sliding off my cracker.
I'm
all right,
done.
if your cheese
Wait
starting to slide.
a minute.
The first time I heard that, I was like, huh? If your cheese is starting to slide off that cracker, baby, all right, starting to feel a little uneasy, right?
Wow.
You teeter-tottering on the edge. You know, we really want to talk about that today.
I'm done. I don't know. I really don't know where to go from there.
Oh,
That is,
man.
I've never heard that
You've
before.
never heard that
Never
before?
heard that
Maybe
before.
it's a Greenville upstate thing, because I've
When
definitely
your
heard
cheese
that.
is sliding off your
like my
cracker.
cheese is starting to
God.
slide off my cracker. Right, so
Yo,
listen.
that's
But
crazy.
if you're in that moment and you know that you are in the, you know, because before we talked about what to do, how to anticipate the shift or the storm coming.
Right.
Now we want to discuss what do you do once you're in the
you're in
moment,
it.
right? And you feel things shifting and changing and you're in the middle of it, all
Yeah.
right? So Ruth Abigail, what's one of your first points? What do we need to do?
So, one of the things that we have to, I would say one of the things we have to unlearn when we're in this moment is to not pretend about where you really are.
My Lord.
Right? We gotta unlearn that pretending is the way to go. You can't sanitize your situation.
My
right?
Lord. Okay.
And so you want to recognize, you want to admit where you are. Like, it is okay. You have to be real about it. You don't want to try to color it up. And especially for those of us who are people of faith, we like to use this Jesus language to color stuff up, right? You know, everything's going to be all right. The Lord, you know, the Lord is my,
make a way
you know, I can do
somehow.
all things through Christ. All of
Okay,
that
all
is
right,
true, right? All
you
of
said
that,
you coloring it with the positive
all of
scriptures.
that is true.
Yeah.
And it's okay to admit it's tough right now, and I need to say that out loud without trying to say, but God. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's okay, because I think that God, there's plenty of moments in scripture you can point to where God is with people in storms.
Yeah.
And he's not expecting you to pretend like there isn't a storm there.
Yeah.
Right? But there is one. So I think the first thing is stop pretending.
Yeah.
Be real about where you are.
God is not thrown off by your storm.
No.
You know, I have two examples, and one I have to give this because it's in my head. For those of you who saw Why Did I Get Married?
Okay.
And it was when Janet Jackson's character, Patty, right? And I think her name was Patricia, but she went by Patty sometimes. And she was like, perfect Patty. Well, guess what? Perfect Patty messed up, right? But she had been living so
Yeah.
long,
Yeah.
pretending
That's
like
good.
she wasn't in a storm.
Yes.
You know, was pretending
Yeah.
like she didn't feel all the things about her son passing away, and pretending that her husband wasn't grieving, and
Yeah.
pretending she had carried
Yes.
that pretend life so long that when she finally got to her breaking point,
Yep.
y'all saw her, she had that little tendril.
Yeah.
We were reminded that she Michael Jackson's sister, because she had that little tendril
Ma'am.
hanging in front of her face. You know, and so I think that it's so important that you are acknowledging like that this moment that I am is bigger than what I can handle right now.
That's right.
And you have to also remind yourself, I remember, and I've said this in a previous episode, that I knew I was in a big shift in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't necessarily a crisis moment, but it was a moment that was bigger than me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was standing and I was getting some work done on my house to prepare for the big moment. And I remember I was in the Lowe's because I was buying like deck wood and all this stuff. I was in the Lowe's, and I told the Lord, I said, Lord, I'm nervous. And the Lord said, those are your feelings, they're not mine. And basically what he was saying was, you're nervous about this moment, but I've already seen you through it.
Yeah.
You know, and so I had to admit to myself
Yeah.
that like, hey, this is kind of knocking me off my cracker a little bit. Right? This is knocking me
Yeah,
off
yeah,
of
yeah.
this moment is huge.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure what all to do with it yet, but I also had to remind myself in that moment when I recognized where I was and was honest
Yeah.
about where I was, that's when you can receive assurance.
Yeah.
You can't be assured of something you won't admit.
That you won't admit. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
People
right.
trying to comfort you, and you're like, I ain't got no
I'm
problem.
good. I'm
I ain't got
fine.
no problem, baby. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Be upfront and be real about
Be
it.
real about it. Be real
Yeah.
about it. Yeah. Okay. So what else?
Okay, listen. All right, and I think this is important because as millennials, I think we've seen a lot. You know, middle adults, listen. The people, millennials, we have seen it all at this point. You
Yeah.
know, we had the young millennials out here doing the cinnamon challenge. Y'all remember that? Y'all
Oh
was out
my
here. Y'all was
gosh.
out here eating cinnamon. Remember that? Burning your tongues up
Crazy,
and such.
crazy.
Right?
One
we had
chip
water
challenge.
bucket challenge.
Yeah.
One chip. You know,
Yeah.
I just feel like we've seen so many extremes.
Yeah.
We've also seen so many extremes in society. You know, we've been through depressions, recessions,
Not
whatever
so much
you want to call it.
depressions. We haven't been through depressions. We have been through a couple of recessions. We
Y'all
gotta
tell
just-
me.
No,
Okay,
we've
y'all
been through-
tell
we ain't been
me.
through no depression.
Okay,
But
y'all
yeah,
tell me.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, we've seen our country, our world go
Mm-hmm.
through so many different changes that a lot of times our advice to each other is, okay, this is how you get out of this moment. All right, you just got to X, Y, and Z and then push through it and you're going to be all right. And we encourage and push when really what I love about the younger generation, like the generations up under us, is that they take their moments.
Yeah.
Right? And they realize, sometimes too much, so
Sure.
it's going to take time.
Yeah.
It is going to take time.
Yeah.
Your process is not it's not going to be immediate, because what's being worked out is not the situation. What's being worked out is what's inside of you that is necessary to endure the next season.
Correct.
The crisis is not about the moment. The crisis is about the mission.
Yeah.
And when we make it about the moment and not about what inside of us needs to be perfected
Yeah.
in order to get to the next stage, we will try to rush through it.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to be honest. You know, there have been a couple of times in my life when I knew it was time for a new job. Right. I'm not a person, and I don't think most millennials are. Like, we changed the game from our parents. We said, I ain't staying on this job for 50
Yeah,
years.
yeah, no.
You know, my granddaddy retired from SCE&G. If you know, you know. My Metro people, right? He retired from SCE&G, and he gave them people like 40, 45 years.
Wow.
You know, they got the watch, you know. They got the plaques
Yeah.
with their names on it. We're
Yeah.
not aiming for that no
Nah,
more.
I'm good.
You know.
We can make our own plaque
What,
on Canva.
what you talking about?
Yeah.
What you talking about?
Yeah.
I'll make my own certificate.
There you go.
Good job, Jaquita.
Yeah, see,
you
okay.
are appreciated. Right? But it's going, like, what you're doing in your life it's going to take a moment. It's going to take a process for you to be able to get from the point that you're at to the point that you're getting to.
Yeah.
And you don't know everything you need to know yet. You haven't met all the people you need to meet yet. You don't have all the skills you need to have yet. You don't have all the resources that you need yet. We are not going to be able to microwave ourselves through a crisis moment.
That's good. Now that's really good.
You're going to have to let it cook.
Yeah.
Right?
Let it cook.
And you're gonna have to if you want the best result from it. If you want the best result from it, right?
Yeah.
Microwave food is never going to be as good as
true.
food that is prepared.
No.
Food that is prepped and prepared and cooked and served.
Yes.
That's what's happening in your life right now.
Yeah. And I think that one thing that's hard to unlearn about time is that it's out of our control. Time is not something you control. You don't have that, and you can't dictate how long something's going to be. And so that's why it's so important, like we were saying at the last episode, that to be prepared with some things, because you might have to go the long haul with this. It may not be on the timetable you would prefer. Right. We have our own timetables. We know it's like, hey, okay, this is going on, and then at this time I expect this to be over, right? Or I believe, and we put I think we use faith in a irresponsible way a lot of times, right? Like, I believe this, therefore. And that's not always the case. And so I think we just have to be honest about that, and know and trust that God's timing is the best timing, even when and particularly when it's not your timing. You just don't know, because like you said, you don't know what the future brings. You don't know how long you're going to need to marinate in certain things. And so we need to be aware that time is not in our control. And so even in the middle of a crisis, when I'm struggling, it is difficult, but also know that it's not going to make it better by rushing the process. You won't make it better. So you just have to lean in and lean into the best of your ability, understanding that time continues to move. It continues to progress. One of the things that I like remembering about time, it helps me, is that no matter what, today you won't ever experience today again. Never. And so a lot of times on your worst days, that's helpful to know. I won't ever be here again. I don't know where I'm going to be tomorrow, but I know this ain't going to happen again, because tomorrow's always different.
That's good.
Right? And so even if it means you're different, like you said. So I think that that time thing is so important. You don't control it.
And I think just one more point about time is that what giving it time allows it to do, it allows you to reset and reframe what you're hoping for and what your vision is, so that what you envision for your life matches what God has already planned for your life. At least that's what it's been for me. And that's not something I did willingly, which is sometimes the point of the crisis.
Right.
That was something that I had to come into the realization of, is that a lot of times our crisis moment is to shift and turn us to go a different way.
Correct. That's
you get
right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times when we're in that moment, you spend so much time. I'm about to talk about a dream I had. You spend so much time trying to go the way that you had planned to go, and you're fighting, you're kicking against the prick, for my Bible readers, right? You're still trying to live the life that you had before, when the Lord is simply trying to turn you and say, but actually what I had for you is greater than that.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to house the vision. And so your crisis moment, again, feels like a moment of conflict. It feels like it's deflating something in you, but that's most of the time because there's something better that God is trying to get you to. And you have to allow him to show you the areas that he's trying to grow your capacity in. And that's what takes time. It takes time to change your mind.
Man, it takes sometimes years to change your mind. Like, that's real, because we're stubborn. And we like the things we like when we like them and the way we like them. And we're used to certain things, and we've got comfortable in certain ways. So, yes, it takes time. And I love that you said that, because changing your mind is is the game changer. That's when things begin to change.
Yeah.
Right. So the next thing that is important, we think when there's a crisis, and we kind of been saying about, recognizing, being honest about where you are, and giving yourself time. There is an element though of healthy faith, right? You got to continue to honestly believe that you will win in the end. You just don't necessarily dictate that end.
Yeah.
Right. But I believe that this will be better. I just can't say when all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that is an important thing to unlearn. You can be confident in your victory at the end and also admit, I don't know when that's going to be.
Yeah.
Those truths can happen at the same time. And so there's a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins.
I do have it.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, good.
You told me to get it.
Oh, I did, didn't I?
did.
Did you read it?
Some of it.
Okay. Well, that's all right. I'm only halfway. But I did get through this chapter. And so he talks about it's a book about companies.
Yeah.
Right. But this is a particular principle that I think can easily be applied to personal. He calls it the Stockholm
Syndrome.
Is it syndrome? Principle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stockholm.
Stockdale. No, I'm wrong.
It's Stockdale.
It's
Yeah,
Stockdale.
yeah.
My fault. Stockholm Principle is a thing. That is not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Stockdale Principle.
Yes.
Okay. And so Stockdale, he was in the army. He was a prisoner of war. He was in a camp for 8 years. And when he got out, so Jim Collins, the author, he interviewed him. And one of the things that he said was, who were the ones that didn't make it out? And his answer was, Stockdale's answer was, the optimists.
Yeah.
He said the optimists didn't make it out. And that really surprised, Jim Collins. He said, that's interesting. Why wouldn't an optimist make it out? He said, because they were always the ones that said, we're going to be out by Christmas.
Wow.
And we never were.
Oh.
So now your hope,
Ooh.
it just keeps getting shattered and shattered and shattered because you keep telling yourself something you can't guarantee. Right? And so he said, the reason, he credits the reason is because I believed I would be out, but I was honest that I don't know when.
Yeah.
But I kept believing that I'm going to be out. But
That's
it's still,
gonna be so
you know what I'm
good.
saying? But the ones who like, we're gonna be out by Christmas, y'all. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna be out by New Year's. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna be out by Easter. It's gonna be okay. And it wasn't okay. And they crumbled.
But so many times, you know what this reminds me of, right? How every year when, before you were married,
Sure.
every year Ruth Abigail would tell us, 2019, guys, this is our year, right? And then we would get to the end of it, and we'd be like disappointed again.
I ain't gonna lie,
right?
That's
Disappointed,
funny.
and I think what that causes you to do, one, when you are focused more on the deliverance out of a thing versus the deliverance out of a mindset.
Yes,
like,
that's
I think
right.
you have to set your mind on the goal is not to get to the next place. The goal is to be whole.
100%.
Right. And I think that a lot of times we are pouring from cups that have holes in it. But because you're pouring, you think you're okay.
Yeah.
Right. And because God has allowed you to see the evidence of your pour, you believe that, the evidence, the production of my work makes me okay.
Yeah.
But God is looking and saying, there's some things that if I can get them to a moment to themselves, I can really begin to work on.
Yeah.
Right. And I know for me, what's funny is that Stockdale paradox was actually one of the things that I had to work on because I'm an optimist.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Y'all know that. All right. I believe.
Yes,
all right.
yes,
I
yes.
got the faith that a thing is going to work out in the way that I envisioned it.
There you go.
Right. And I tell
right.
people,
That's
like,
right.
To be an optimist sometimes is to live a life of disappointment.
You say that. That is so true.
Yeah, I say that. But if you continue down that path, you begin to expect disappointment instead of expecting change.
Yeah.
Right? And so instead of embracing change, you start embracing disappointment. And that changes the way that you approach life.
Yeah.
When I have hope, but I'm like, this may not work out, so I'm just going to prepare for things to not work out.
Right.
Instead of preparing for, what if it actually does work?
Exactly.
Right? Like, what if in the moment of crisis, because that's what happens a lot of times, especially as middle adults, friends, hello, my 30s and 40s, okay, especially us. A lot of times what gets us stuck in a moment is when you feel like you've gotten to a point where things don't work anymore.
Right.
Right?
That's
Or things,
good, yeah.
things like what you did before is not sustaining you anymore.
Right.
What you did before doesn't work in the season that you shifted into or in the moment that you're trying to get into. Some of the crisis is happening at the end of a thing,
Yeah.
and some of our crises are happening at the beginning of
that's
a
right.
thing.
Yeah.
Right. And you're trying to apply old principles to a new situation.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that one thing that we can be really aware of is that when we are in those moments, you have to surrender not just to the process, you have to surrender to being made new. And that's I tell people, I used to think that this whole being made new thing, I thought it was going to be a one-time thing. You know, like I thought, hey,
right, right. I'm old,
yeah.
and I'm new.
It's kind of like when you get saved.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm saved now.
I'm
You know,
good.
what
We straight.
what y'all still talking to me about sin for?
Right, right.
Why y'all still talking about
done
that?
with that. Right, right.
I moved out my old house and moved to my new house.
There
You know,
you go.
like
Right.
I got a whole new way of life. But baby,
No,
that old man,
that's it.
is still fighting you. And so, but again, the Stockdale principle, that was something that I had to unlearn.
Yes.
I had to unlearn this idea of putting my vision on things
Yeah.
and asking God to do what I envisioned.
Yeah.
Right. But when you have a winning mindset, you say, I don't know how. Sorry, I was going to sing, but then Ruth Abigail's looking at me, and y'all know how she do.
Listen, I was going to let you.
But anyways, the song goes, I don't know how, I don't know when. Okay, I don't know how God's going to do it.
Yeah.
I only know victory.
I will say that I and we talk about this all the time. I have an opposite issue in that I struggle to say that I'm going to win if I don't see it. So I lean in the opposite direction, right? I'm not a pessimist, but I would say that I'm more of a realist, I guess, but a realist leaning towards pessimism in her worst days, right? And so it's like, okay, and I've had to learn. I mean, I really have had to learn how to speak things that are going to be without me knowing how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Because that's my thing. It's like, if I can see it, oh yeah, I'm good. I say that all day, right? We just finished a pretty big project at Angel Street. I knew it was going to happen because I could see the path.
Yeah.
I was like, we got this. Other people didn't believe it. I believed it. We
Yeah.
got it, right? But when I don't see it, it's hard for me to say that we're going to win, that I'm going to win. And so I think that both of those, we have to unlearn that because it is a marriage of both. And I think that's what this Stockdale paradox is really teaching is you have to do both. You have to believe with everything in you that you're going to win and admit that the situation does not look like it right now.
My Lord.
Right?
Ooh, that's good.
That's where that is.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Love it.
So, what's next, Guido? What's the next thing?
Listen, okay, I want to talk to my friends, okay, because I've been where you are, okay, and you get to these tough moments, and the first thing you start doing is identifying everyone who put you there, right?
Okay.
Everyone who made you feel like a victim, I understand.
That's real.
Yeah, and we get stuck in these victim mindsets because we begin thinking about, well, if they hadn't done this and if they hadn't done that, and if such and such and such and such hadn't did this and that, then I wouldn't be where I am. And you can get stuck being so hyper focused on what other people have or have not done
absolutely.
that you miss the moment that God is trying to carry you to.
Yes.
And I promise you, we can't name no names.
Sure.
But in recent situations that I've been, I mean, my friends can tell you, Ruth Abigail can tell you, like I was hyper fixated on this person.
Yeah.
Or on these people.
Yeah.
Like they are doing this, and this to me. And it is affecting the way that I interact and engage with this moment that I'm in.
Right.
Right. And when you get stuck in that victim mindset, that takes away everything that you're trying to build
Yeah.
out of this moment of conflict, or out of this crisis moment.
Yeah.
Right? Because you become fixated on what they're on being preyed upon, instead of, I'm sorry, I was going to try to do a pray and pray. Yeah. I was like, mind, get it,
No,
make this parallel,
couldn't
make
make
this
it.
connection.
Couldn't do
Right?
it, yeah.
But you get fixated on what they're doing
Yeah.
to you instead of what God is doing in you.
That's right.
Right? And so that victim mindset, it is not just about you feeling like you can't win. It is about you feeling like someone has done something to you.
Yeah.
And maybe they have.
That's real, yeah.
I'm not trying to take that away.
That's good, 'cause they could have.
Yeah, maybe people have done things
Yeah.
that have been really detrimental and hurtful for you.
Absolutely.
But you will not get out of your crisis moment if you're only fixated on what they need to change.
And you're not going to, it's not going to, while you're in your crisis moment, you can't, it's just going to keep putting you down, right?
Yeah.
And pushing you down and keeping you down.
Yeah.
And like, that is just, you don't want that, right? Like, I think, I love what you said as far as sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's people, society. People will put it on society. People will put it on the economy. This is really interesting. Michelle Obama has this podcast, right? In my opinion, which I've been enjoying. And they did a live show where they had somebody come up and ask a question. And it was a young man, he was 28, and he had this whole prepared question, but part of it was him saying, how, I'm paraphrasing,
Okay.
but like, how do we, talking about our generation, kind of move forward in a way when the world that we were promised is not on the horizon, right? And talking about the economy and not being able to buy a house and things like this. And you can tell that he was very distraught by that. And it was a genuine question. And I think at the time they were also interviewing a psychologist who taught a class on mental health, right? So anyway, college course. When I heard that, it was really interesting because I'm sitting here and he's not, a lot of people in our generation and maybe a little younger feel like I've been gypped by society, right?
Girl,
I've been gypped.
Talk about it, yes.
My thing is two things I think you have to ask yourself. Who promised you anything just because you are here?
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be real about it. Like, that's a mindset we got to kill, right?
Yeah.
You aren't promised. Just because you're here doesn't mean you get something, right? That is the entitlement culture we got to unlearn. And also, though, I think that this feeling like I can't do anything until something changes out there.
Yeah.
Right? Again, that is something we have to unlearn. You can, like, you like being, this young man was 28, but 30, 32, 40, whatever age you're at. It's like, maybe you're not getting the same economy your parents got, right? We're not getting that. And I think, first of all, that's just true. We got to live in that truth. We're not getting that.
Ooh.
But does that mean that we can't still go after things we want? Right?
Listen, can I hop in? I think staying in the victim mindset will kill your creativity because you become hyper focused on being rescued. I'm a victim and you're waiting on your hero. You're waiting on your boat to come that will come and take you out of this situation. And you become hyper focused on, I can't wait till I get out of this. I can't wait till I get out of this. And you are looking for something external to change your circumstances instead of you learning how to thrive in the midst of the crisis.
Correct.
Because that is what builds the necessary ingredients in you in order to really become the next next thing that you're becoming.
That's it.
Right? That's the cooking.
Yeah.
The cooking is the creativity that you gain from being in difficult circumstances.
Yeah.
But when you are constantly like, this is wrong, why did they do this? Why did they do this? And that's kind of like something that our generation is stuck on right now. When you look on Instagram, Facebook, all of the places, we're all talking about, how, other generations were able to do this. And they got this. Remember when gas was $1? But no. Remember when gas was $1.
Wow.
Okay.
Because I actually do remember when gas was
I remember when the three prices for gas was like 99 cents, $1, and $1.01. And my mama was like, we getting that 99-cent gas, because that penny made a difference. Yeah. Now they like 50, 75 cents apart. And you're like, Lord.
Yeah.
Right? But, when we stay fixated on what we don't have, you miss your opportunity to have more.
Yeah.
Guess what? You can get a house in this economy.
Yes, you can.
Guess what? You can thrive in this economy.
That's right.
Guess what? You can make moves. You can be successful. You can move to your next level of living, but not if you stay stuck believing that you are a victim.
Come on.
The victim will never get themselves out of a situation.
Yeah.
You have to move from being a victim to a victor.
Yeah.
And you only do that by sitting down, taking a moment, assessing what do I have in me, what is available, what is at my disposal to help me win. And I'm going to tell y'all right now, the path towards your next level in life, towards your elevation, is not traditional.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the way your parents did it. It's not going to be the way that you've seen it done before.
Right.
You are going to have to allow God to carry you through a creative process to get to where he's taking you.
You absolutely do. I love that you said that. It's not traditional. And you're not going to, it's not going to be the way you've seen it before. And so to your point, that creativity piece is so crucial, right? Like you need, we are some of the most creative. We have a high degree of creativity in our and entrepreneurship and innovation. Like that's what we do. And so don't just innovate for a business, innovate for your life.
Innovate.
You know what I'm saying? Innovate for your personal life. Innovate for what you do.
And I think innovation looks different for different people, right? Like, like you might not be the person that comes up with business ideas, right? But you might be the person that makes processes better. Yeah. You might be the person that can get in. You're great at assisting people. You might be the person that's really good at making things look great and making things better. Figure out what your thing is and maximize it. Yeah. Right? And stop getting stuck on what you wish you had or what you wish was different, and allow yourself to say, okay, I'm in a difficult moment, but I don't have to stay here. Because the people, even if, because I know some of y'all got the bosses, you got the family members, you got the people who you feel like put you in a little difficult spot. Right. I understand. Even if somebody else put me in the spot, right, I don't have to stay here.
I don't have to stay here.
And them changing is not what's going to deliver me out of 100%. My circumstance.
That's it. Because first of all, that's not your decision. For them to change.
It's not your decision. And are you trying to wait on them to change?
If you're going to wait on them to change, like you are opting into a situation you don't have to be in for long. But if you just keep waiting on other people to change, or on society to change, or on the economy to change, then you are just opting into being where you are longer. And so because you have no idea when that's going to happen, you don't have control over that. I think that moves us to this, to this next point of like, yes, feel. Yes, do that. Yes, be in that for a time. But like you said, don't be stuck. After you have felt and have resolved, this is where I am, this is the reality, evaluate. What does this really look like? Mm-hmm. Start to see, not just feel it, but process it. Evaluate it. And really begin to try to understand some stuff, right? It's a good time. It's a good time to pick up a new book. It's a good time to listen to a new podcast. It's a good time to, throw on a sermon you ain't heard in a minute. Like, get your mind going. You know what I'm saying? Start putting some things into your mind so you can have some understanding, and begin to really evaluate and look at, all right, what am I, what you're feeling. Yeah. Name it, and then evaluate the thing you just named, right? If you're feeling disappointed, What made me disappointed? Okay, my boss, my boss, I didn't get the raise I wanted, and so my financial plans have been thwarted because I didn't get the raise I wanted to get.
Yeah.
Okay, you're disappointed, you're upset, you can't move forward in your life, you feel like, because XYZ. Cool.
For sure.
This is the issue.
Yeah.
Now you know what it is. You felt it. Now let's look at it. Let's evaluate it. What are my other options?
Yeah.
What are the other things I could do? How else can I get this money? And now you put yourself in a position to move forward and not just stay stuck. But in order to move forward, you need to actually pause, evaluate, look at it, and start to iterate on different ways to move.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think about when you were talking, I thought about emotional intelligence, right? Because emotional intelligence starts with self-awareness.
Yes.
You have to be aware of what is the emotion, what is the thing that I'm feeling in this moment, right? That you have to be able to name it, right? And that was something that I really had to learn how to do. Jaquita, you feel a big feeling right now. You have to be able to name it so that once you move from self-awareness, then you can move to self-management.
Yes.
Right? Okay, I know I have taken a moment with myself. I have identified the feeling. How am I going to manage myself through this moment?
Absolutely.
Right? Because we talk about time management. It is not about managing the time that you're in the situation.
Yeah.
It's about learning to manage yourself.
That's it.
Right? How am I going to manage feeling disappointed? How am I going to manage feeling angry?
Yeah.
How am I going to manage feeling anxious?
Yeah.
Right? How am I going to manage these big feelings so that I can get to the place of purpose? Emotional intelligence does not just lead to greater relationships, it leads to greater purpose. Because once you have self-awareness and self-management, now you have societal awareness.
Yeah.
Now you can take a step back because it's not just about me, and me.
Right.
You can take a step back and evaluate the whole picture, right? And figure out, okay, now I have societal awareness. Then the last stage of emotional intelligence is societal impact, right? But you cannot get to a place of impact if you have not gotten to a place of self-management.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What's next?
Okay, so I think that it's going to be important that as you are going through what we are going to call the process.
Yes.
And for all my saved people, you've heard that word process before. The church loves it.
Yeah.
They love that. They love that word. You're in a process. You're in a process. I think that it's important that you realize that a process is something you have to submit to.
Yes.
Everything that we mentioned to you today, everything that we mentioned to you in this moment, it is something that you are going to have to sign up for. You are going to have to say, I am willing to go through the process that's going to take me from good to great.
Yeah.
I am willing for this. You have to allow the crisis, the moment of conflict, to do its work in you. You have to allow that. I think when we look at any storyline, when we look at any story plot, right, you have the main character who begins the story at a certain place, and we learn about their story. We learn about who they are, but they hit a moment of conflict. A moment of conflict is simply a moment of decision.
That's right.
Right? It is am I going to allow myself to go through the process in order to become who I need to become, or am I going to allow the situation to literally overtake me and keep me stuck where I am?
You know what screenwriters call that?
What's that?
The dark night of the soul.
Ooh.
So there's a book called Save the Cat.
Yeah.
And it's what screenwriters use to write movies. And there's 15 beats in every story.
Yeah.
Right? I bought the book recently. I've looked at the 15 beats because I want to kind of use it in something we're doing at Angel Street. But I read through it, and then I watched a couple of movies, and I sat there and I looked at each beat, and I tried to find it. It was really dope. But yeah, that, like what you're saying, it's like beat I don't know, 13 or something like that. Okay. And it
sounds like that would be the dark night of the soul.
Night of the
13.
Soul. It's the moment where you make a decision on when am I going to like you said, am I going to go through the process of the change that becomes a different me? And you've hit all these points. The bad things have happened. It's gotten worse than you thought it was going to get.
Lord.
And now you're in this moment, and you get to decide. Do I go through the rest of this process, or do I just stop here and get stuck? And that's the moment, right? And so I love that. It's a part of everybody's story.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
that's good.
It's a part of everybody's
That's good.
story.
And that's because you don't get to the next level without getting to this moment of great decision.
Yes.
You know, there are moments, you know, middle adults, y'all know, there are moments, sometimes you just got to sit with yourself.
You do.
You just got to sit with yourself and you got to decide, am I going to allow my life to continue to stay in this place where I've gotten comfortable in?
Yeah.
Because we've now lived long enough where we got comfortable. And a lot of times we got comfortable in a spot that wasn't our intended spot. You got comfortable, and that could be for a variety of reasons. It could be because of the structures that you built around yourself in childhood. It could be because of the things that you are trying to avoid. Are you trying to avoid rejection? Are you trying to avoid feeling unsafe or feeling less than? What are you trying to avoid? Because the thing you're trying to avoid is the very thing that you need to surrender.
100%.
The thing that you're trying to avoid is causing you to hold too tightly to something that God is saying, if I don't loosen your grasp on this thing, I cannot, your hands are full of what you're avoiding.
Yeah.
It's full of it.
Yeah.
You are full of avoiding big feelings or avoiding big moments. You are full of trying to avoid rejection. You're full of trying to avoid being put out or cast out or being ignored or feeling less than or feeling unworthy. Your hands are full.
Yeah.
Right. And you are living a life where you are juggling what you're trying to avoid with what you're trying to obtain. And until you put down, right, that thing, until you put down your care and your grasp on what you're trying to avoid and allow yourself to pick up, right, allow yourself to surrender to the process.
Yep.
Surrendering to the process means rejection might happen, but I'm going to go on anyway.
I'm going to do it anyway.
I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Right. I might get in a situation that I feel like I'm not good enough for.
Yep.
But I'm gonna go in anyway.
Yes, exactly.
Right. You have to get to the point of I'm gonna do it anyway.
And you know, and I if you haven't, if you're curious at all, it's not expensive. I'm telling you, Save the Cat. This book is so interesting, and even if you don't want to get the book, you can look it up online. What are the 15 beats of every story? Because once you realize that. Not only you look at that, not only are those real stories, those are stories we love. Yeah. They're stories we gravitate to. Those are stories we like to learn from because that right there, everything you just said is you make a decision. You have to make a decision to say, I'm either going to stay here, I'm going to keep going. Think about any movie, right? I mean, think about Aladdin, think about Lion King, think about, all these movies, Moana. I don't know. We just watched Moana 2 at my house, and so I got that in my head. But think about.
I just watched Mufasa.
There you go, Mufasa, right? There's all these moments where the main character has to decide, and a lot of times it feels like you are likely going to lose, but I'm going to try it anyway. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to stay here. And in Mufasa at the very end where the pride, all the people he had to bring all these people together. And he's like, I don't think I can do that. I'm sorry. Yeah. Spoiler alert. But it's fine. We're not giving away too much.
It's on Disney Plus now.
It'll be fine. You'll be good. It's a great movie.
Once it hits the streaming services.
Yeah, it's good. We're good. Okay, good. So he's trying to get all these people together, these animals together that have never done anything before. And he's like, who am I? He was convinced to do it. He did it without knowing what the outcome was going to be against these, these predators. And so he decided to go for it. But there was a moment where he could have said, I'm not going to do it. Yeah. And if he wouldn't have done it, he would never become the king. But he did it. But he did it not knowing that kingship was coming. Yeah. Right? He did it because I'm just going to choose to move forward. And I think that this idea of the process, that's what's so powerful.
Yeah. And I think, if you are a young person watching us today, because I know we talk a lot to middle adults, all right, but maybe one of our young adults snuck in on us, all right, I want you to know, because I've been talking to them, because they're looking at the moment that we're in right now, and they are trying to determine what role, what place they're going to have in history in this moment. They're the Mufasas right now. Yeah, sure. They are the I'm walking. I don't yet know that I'm a king. I don't yet know what I will be. right? But I'm walking in this moment and I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to use my gifts? How am I going to use just my natural inclinations
Right.
to get to my next spot, right?
Right.
He had a destination in mind. He didn't know what he was going to become at that destination. He just had it. He just knew he had to get there.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think that it's so important for y'all, especially as you are thinking through, what am I going to do with this next season of my life, to remember that when you look through history, I know sometimes we look through history and history feels old. But the people who were history makers were young.
That's real.
When they
No,
were
no, for
creating
sure.
history.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were, the freedom writers were
Yeah,
college
students.
high school and college
That's right.
students.
Yeah.
MLK was like in his late 20s,
That's
early
it.
30s when he
26.
started.
Yeah.
Like these people, when we look back sometimes,
Yeah.
we see adults. But when they were in it, they were young.
They were young.
And so, a lot of what's happening that you guys want to respond to, it's your boots on the ground that we're waiting for.
Right.
And I don't want you to miss your moment to become a part of history.
That's it. That's
right.
good.
And so don't be afraid. Don't let any man despise you because of your youth. Okay? You allow yourself to be great in the moment that you're in, and history will look kindly on you.
That brings us to our last point here. So I think it leans itself into this because I think when you're in a crisis, it's the thing that feels the most natural is to focus on your crisis.
Oh, absolutely.
And to focus on yourself and the
Yeah.
crisis. Focus on me. Focus on, I need help. I need, and that's true.
Yeah.
Right. And you absolutely should do that. But I think that something I have had to unlearn in moments of crisis is that not just if there's a point where thinking just about your crisis or your situation is no longer helpful or useful, because you do all these things that we're saying is good to do in our experience, and you've admitted it, you are submitting yourself to the process, you are doing all the things you're supposed to do, you're not pretending, you believe you're going to win, but you're not delusional on the timing, all those things, right?
Yeah.
Well, all right, I'm doing all that. So what do I do?
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that is really beautiful and that can really be useful in that time is to focus on serving other people.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Now, let me be clear, not serving other people to ignore your issue, but serving other people in the midst of your crisis so that your energy isn't just on you.
Yeah.
And it's not just on your problem, and it's not just on your disappointment, but now you can use energy to do something that is going to impact something bigger than you.
Yeah.
And I think it does something for perspective, and it does something for relationship. And oftentimes you will find contentment that you didn't know you could find, because now you're not just focused on the problem.
Yeah.
You're focused on a solution
Yeah.
for somebody else.
Yeah.
So it reminds you that solutions are out there.
Yeah.
And so if I can focus on a solution
Yeah.
for what if somebody else is putting energy and focusing on a solution for me, right? I'm focusing on them. It makes me believe that somebody's got to be out there working on my behalf.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to work on somebody else's.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that has been something, and I think it's healthy for us to unlearn, that focusing on yourself during a crisis at a certain point is no longer healthy.
Yeah.
Focus on somebody else, focus on serving, and not just sulking in what you're doing.
Yeah. And I think that what you will find is that what will get you to your next level is not your ability, it's your service.
Yes,
it is your
absolutely,
ability
100%.
to, because let me tell you something, regardless of what area in industry, in life, in business, in community, in church that you have been called to serve, and regardless of it, it will make you better. Right.
It will.
Serving increases your capacity.
It does.
There are some areas of your life that won't be made better until you are pouring it out somewhere.
100%.
You trying to keep it to yourself and say, I used to, I when I first graduated from divinity school, I went to good schools. Not that all schools aren't good. Go to college. Or go to a trade school.
Yeah.
Get your education. However you got to get it. You know what I'm saying? But I went to these, really recognizable, really, high profile schools. So when I graduated from divinity school, I was like, hello, who wants your girl?
Yeah.
All right, who trying to hire me? And everybody was like, first of all, you got to master divinity. What even is that?
Yeah.
And one of the first jobs I applied to was a law office. And they was like, ma'am, but I had worked at a law office during divinity school.
Right.
And I was like, they going to see that. They going to translate that. They was like, man, we don't want this.
Yeah.
But I was so focused on what I thought was my capabilities. I did not yet have enough work experience to say, hey, I am a person that produces. I am a person that leads. I am a person that pours.
Yeah.
Right? You have got what makes you proof positive is not what you're capable of doing, is who you're capable of influencing. It's where you're able to make impact and where you're able to lead teams, processes, ideas. You have to be able to show I have served.
Yes.
In some capacity.
Absolutely.
Everybody's not people.
Yeah.
Everybody's not leading teams and leading, but where in your life have you poured out? And I teach my students that purpose has to be tied to impact. If your purpose only impacts you, that's not a purpose, that's an aspiration. And there's difference, because purpose impacts.
Yeah.
Purpose pulls something forward. What you were not designed to come into earth and serve yourself.
You're not.
You were designed to come
not.
in and have an impact that would be beneficial for community and not just individually.
Absolutely. I don't have anything to add to that.
Hey, listen,
because that was good.
I can always tell when we come to a close, because it's like, all right, y'all feel good.
I think we're done. No. I think that was good. And I hope you're encouraged, because the reality is a lot of people are in crisis right now.
Yeah.
And so this is why we thought it was, really, really important to talk about this, because, and so I think a lot of people who are listening, just by sheer statistics, are probably in a crisis in some way. Are you feeling like, I'm not able to deal with XYZ?
For sure.
And so I hope that this was encouraging to you, and I hope that you can take this, and maybe if you have to listen to it more than one time, just to remind yourself, what are some of the things that I need to be doing right now in order to come out on the other side of this?
For sure.
So, all right.
All right, friends, one more time, if you made it to the end of this podcast, we so enjoyed hanging out with you. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.
So let's keep unlearning together so that we can experience more freedom. Peace.